Most people think the hardest part of Torah is understanding it, but as we will soon see, the hardest part of learning Torah happens even before you begin. In this week's parsha, we read about the iconic paragraph of Shema, the paragraph that discusses Hashem's unity, the importance of keeping his mitzvahs, the importance of putting on tefillin. Among them, as the Torah tells us, V'shinamtam levanecha v'dibarta bam. You should teach all of this to your children. One of the most important mitzvahs in the Torah, commanding us to make sure that the tradition of Yiddishkeit, that the Torah of Judaism should continue to be passed on from generation to generation. However, interestingly enough, the Alter Rebbe, in his Hilchos Talmud Torah, when he writes the laws of teaching Torah, as well as the Rambam, don't just use this pasuk as a source that you must teach your children. They use this as a source for learning Torah in general. This is how you're meant to know that you have to learn Torah. In fact, the Rambam and the Alter Rebbe, both, before even talking about the obligations of you yourself learning Torah, bring up the commandment to teach the future generation, the commandment to teach your students, your children, and whoever you come to interact with. But while this all sounds very nice, why are we seemingly prioritizing the teaching to others before we learn ourselves? Logic would dictate that one would have to learn Torah himself in order to be able to teach another person. So why does the Rambam and the Alter Rebbe, when writing the laws of learning and teaching Torah, prioritize teaching others before teaching yourself, to the point where they derive the source of learning Torah yourself from the pasuk in this week's parsha that talks about teaching others? What's going on over here? Explains the Rebbe that this all comes down to what makes the Torah so special. Because as Jews, there are two things that Hashem gave us that are incredibly dear to us. There is the Torah, which is what we're talking about here, and there are its mitzvahs, the commandments that we're meant to accomplish. When it comes to a mitzvah, a commandment, the objective is very simple. Just do it. You don't need to have the most sincere motives. You don't need to have a perfect desire to connect to Hashem, thinking all the right things. You literally need to just do the action. However, when it comes to learning Torah, while there is a concept of fake it till you make it, there is a special emphasis on having the proper level of bittul, self-nullification, before learning. The reason for this is because Torah is completely connected to the very essence of Hashem. And as the Alter Rebbe writes himself in the 5th parak of Tanya, when you learn Torah, a double unification takes place with Hashem's essence. You are surrounding it, and it is surrounding you. You are completely encompassed and encompassing God's very essence. And if someone really understands how special that is, he must have the proper level of self-nullification, of bittul, in order to properly experience the effects of Torah. And therefore, when the Alter Rebbe and the Rambam tell us before anything else that the basis of Torah is teaching to another person, it does not just mean, in its literal sense, to teach the future generations, which is very important. It also means to teach to the child in ourselves. That when we learn Torah, we should learn it with the simplicity of a child, with the bittul, the self-nullification, the lack of self-interest, like a child. There were great people throughout history who were very well versed in Torah. Some would say they knew it better than most rabbis, but they got nowhere with it. In fact, it took them the wrong way. They did it for their motives. The goal ultimately is to take Torah in a way where Torah is the one in control, and ultimately that will spill over to your mitzvahs as well. And not just will it take over the way you serve Hashem, this mindset will help you interact with the world as well, because the entire reason that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed and that we established multiple fasts during the year, culminating with Tisha B'Av, to remember those times, was because of sinas chinam, that every person did not have that bittul. Every person did not have the self-nullification, and to their own eyes, they were the most important being. No one had room for another, and that caused one of the saddest days in the Jewish calendar. But God created the medicine before the sickness. The Torah was around long before then, telling us that the key to peace, the key to the global refinement of the world, ultimately culminating with the coming of Mashiach, can only come through unbound love for another. And that starts with bittul. That starts with making yourself slightly smaller, allowing someone else to come into your life. And by doing that, we should ensure that next year's Tisha B'Av should already be with singing and dancing, rejoicing with the coming of Mashiach. May he come speedily in our days. Wishing you a good Shabbos.